Hi, I'm Tim Baldermann, and welcome to this edition of Too Honest for Social Media, where we talk about issues at the local level, state level, federal level that impact you here in New Lenox and really are relevant outside our community as well. Today is one of those days. We are here with Nicole Underwood and with Riley Hesse. They are from the KidsWork Children's Museum, and we're going to learn a little bit about the history of KidsWork and what's happening there now. Nicole, we talked, you're the curator, the executive director, muckety muck. What are we calling you?
I am the executive director for the museum.
For the executive director for the museum. All right,
yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your history, and how you ended up in this great community.
Oh, yes. So as Mayor Baldermann had mentioned, I am the executive director for the museum. I've held this position for nearly almost 8 years in August. Prior to coming to New Lenox, I had somewhat of a diverse business background. I worked in the telecom industry for over a decade at Ameritech, which no longer exists. It is now AT&T. In 2004, my husband and I moved to New York City. This is where I switched over and had gotten involved in marketing and advertising. I worked at A&E Television Network. I also worked at IAC, which is Interactive Corp. Both of those positions, I was an account manager in sales, again, working in sales and advertising. And then we had our daughter in New York City. We thought, you know what, 400 square feet, that's not big enough to raise a kid. Let's move back to Chicago, a little bit bigger. So we moved back to the city of Chicago in Wrigleyville. We were 2 blocks north of Wrigley Field. I had my daughter, Olivia, and then got very heavily involved in CPS, the Chicago Public School System, as far as a volunteer. This is where I really became passionate about teachers.
You weren't volunteering to help kids learn how to read or anything because their scores are in the toilet.
Yeah.
I didn't know what you were. Okay.
I was not.
Okay,
I was
all right,
not.
Go ahead. I just want to make sure.
So after that, that's a good point that you brought up. We were like, are they going to learn how to read? It was like, you know what? I'm originally from Frankfort. I went to Lincoln Way. I went to Lincoln Way Central once a night, always a night. Mm-hmm. So I thought, you know what? Let's go back to a town that I know. Awesome school district. And that's what we did. And got involved in KidsWork as a volunteer. And then sure enough, this position opened, the executive director position opened. And somebody said, hey, you should throw your name in the ring. I think you would be great. And here I am.
So you got involved in KidsWork when it was in Frankfort.
Yes,
and
I did.
What year did you do that?
I got involved in 16.
In 2016.
And then I became the director in 17, August of 2017.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Riley, what about you?
Yeah, so I am from all over the
Shouldn't take you that long. I mean,
yeah.
you're like
she's
15
young.
years old.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
No, you just had your 21st, I remember.
Yes,
there
I did. Yes, I did. Just turned 21.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm from all over the place. I grew up in Seneca, Illinois, but I landed myself in Mokina about 5 years ago. I had a bunch of other customer service jobs until I came across KidsWork because I had a connection with our operations manager, so I started working there, and this August will be 2 years of working there. Yeah, and then I go to JJC and I take classes there.
There you go.
And psychology is my major, yes.
Really? Mm-hmm. Is that after working with Nicole, you thought that was your
I needed a little bit of help. Yeah, oh yeah.
Working with hundreds of kids screaming and running around the museum?
Yeah. Yes, it's a
there
lot.
You go.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's great to have both of you here. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about, so KidsWork started in Frankfort how long ago?
So that was started by, which is phenomenal to think about. And I know you had met some of the founders.
Yes.
Just an amazing group of women. These were educators, business people, and they basically, honestly, they were in their living room, over some wine, because great things happen. With women and wine.
Okay.
They said, hey.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Some great things do happen when you have women and wine, but go ahead, yes.
So women and wine, they said, hey, you know what? They were traveling out to Oak Lawn or DuPage to wonderful children's museums. And they said, you know what? There's not a children's museum anywhere in Will County. Let's start our own. And sure enough, they did it. They did it. So
this living room full of dedicated moms,
educators.
Yes, just wanted to do something. Really started just for the community initially,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. It's for the community.
Yeah, amazing work that they were able to pull something
it's
like
phenomenal.
that off.
It is phenomenal.
And did it start? Was its first home right there by the trolley barn in downtown Frankfort?
Yes, it started in the trolley barn, and before we moved to New Lenox, that's where it always had been.
Yeah, so about 6,000 square feet over there.
Yeah, and the thing too is, I look back. The name is KidsWork. They didn't name it Frankfort for a reason, Frankfurt Children's Museum, because they had the foresight. They said it might not always stay in Frankfurt, which is really, and here we are. It didn't. So we always kept the name KidsWork, even moving over to New Lenox. But for them to think about that, to not call it Frankfurt Children's Museum, saying, hey, you know what, there could be a possibility this museum might not stay in this town.
No, you're right. And I did have the opportunity to meet a lot of those women that were involved at the very beginning. Just so passionate and so dedicated, and they really did amazing things. It really shows you that if you want to be a part of your community, you don't have to be an elected official, you don't have to be a staff member, you just have to be a good person that wants to make a difference. And boy, they really made a difference, not only for Frankfurt, because when it was in Frankfurt, I know a lot of people from New Lenox, Mokina, Manhattan, the whole area and beyond were coming to the Children's Museum.
Oh, yeah, only about 40% of Frankfurt residents, made up are members and visitors. Yeah. All others came from New Lenox, Mokina, Tinley, Orland, Oak Lawn, Naperville. I mean, from all around the Chicagoland area.
Sure, yeah. So no, that was great. Yeah, they did amazing work. And you started over there 2 years ago in August, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you said because you had a connection. See, it's like Southside politics here.
Totally.
You know somebody.
I know,
is that what happened? Are you a Nepo baby?
No,
is that what they call?
I am not.
Is that what they call them now? No, you're not.
I wish I was.
You wish you were?
I'm not. Yes.
Well, whether you are or not, you're certainly doing an amazing job for us
Thank
now.
you.
So we appreciate.
You.
Your face is getting as red as your hair.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Come on. I've seen you do the spots over there for the museum that Don films. You do great work.
Oh, yeah.
You're a natural in front of the camera.
It's true. First podcast though. So.
Oh, this is your first podcast?
Groundbreaking. Yes.
Very groundbreaking. It's groundbreaking for us to have you here. All right, so a couple of years ago, you were over there, and had you been there, obviously you were too old to go there as a kid, and you didn't have any kids to bring there. So were you familiar with it at all when you started there?
No, actually, when I went in for my interview, I had nowhere to go. I didn't know where I was going or anything like that. I had to call my friend, and I was like, where am I supposed to go? I never went to the trolley barn or anything.
Sure. Yeah, it was pretty well hidden. And that really kind of speaks to the success that the original KidsWork had, because it was very difficult to find in that trolley barn if you didn't know where you were going.
Absolutely.
And still you had good numbers there. When you were there right before the announcement that New Lenox was going to build this building, and we'll get into that,
Sure.
How many memberships roughly did you have?
We were roughly around 600.
All right, close to 600 members.
Close to 600, yes.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
It is quite a bit.
And your annual attendance, I know we went through the financials before we agreed to take this on.
As you should.
But yeah, I don't know if you remember what the numbers were. But
So we, as far as our footprint there, and again, trolley barn located downtown Frankfurt, we brought in about 40,000.
That's what I thought, yeah. 40,000 people annually.
Yes.
Well, and it was more than just bringing 40,000 people to the KidsWork Children's Museum. You had some restaurants and candy shops down. I mean, it was bringing people in to downtown Frankfurt.
We were definitely an anchor. We were an anchor in that downtown area.
Yeah, no question. Did you realize that once you got in there, how important the museum was to the area?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For you too, did you go over to our buddies, Raffy's Candies? We'll talk about them. They opened over there.
Yes.
But did you find? And they had Cultivate was a nice restaurant that was over there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it was really nice to have that there. I'm sure. And people, did you find that people were going to those places? before and after the museum?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of them were sad to see us go because we brought them a lot of business.
Yeah, no, they definitely were. So why don't we really just get into it? I mean, it is the 800-pound elephant always when we talk about the museum.
Sure.
I know that, my community engagement director was serving as a volunteer on the board, and she had said to me one night she was here last. I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Well, I've got a board meeting, and we're trying to find an entity, a public entity, to partner with us." So why did KidsWork want to find a public entity, and who did you talk to? This is when you were in Frankfurt.
Yeah, so we had grown so much. Just to begin with, I mean, if people who are familiar with us, we were 6,500 square feet. We were very successful in fundraising, and anytime we would get a new exhibit, we'd have to get rid of one because we just didn't have the space.
Room to grow,
yeah, we just didn't have the space. But really, the telling moment was the pandemic. That really did it.
Sure.
And, we fought tooth and nail to get that reopened again. I was relentless as far as with grants. I was like, there's no way this is going to close permanently. And we were closed for many, many months.
Sure.
All of my employees are getting furloughed. At one point, I'm working for free. Yeah. I'm walking into an empty museum.
Wait. You were working for, how do we get that deal then?
Yeah.
Are you willing to revisit that?
That's off the table. No, that's never going to happen.
All right, go ahead.
So, just so you know.
All right, so go ahead. So we got to pay you the Whopper salary. Plus, you
Yes.
want to talk about a benefits package, a rider or something you want. But
we got to talk about the
go ahead.
rider.
So times are tough over
okay.
there after the pandemic.
Yeah. So thankfully, I was able to get some substantial grants that enabled us to reopen.
Sure.
And then right after that, man, we just boomed because so many of those kids, remember, during that time, kids didn't get vaccinated. They couldn't get vaccinated. So they were isolated.
Sure.
So when we reopened, people came in and they thought we were Disney World. Yeah. They were just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, we're still the same kids.
Yeah, but after being locked up for a while, no doubt.
After being locked up, some of these kids, I had a mom, they were driving over to KidsWork and she was the little girl's in the back seat of the car and she's like, I see people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's revealing. I mean,
live
that tells
people,
you
though.
Live
It wasn't like a Sixth Sense kind of thing where she's seeing dead people. It was like, okay, all right, go ahead. I just want to make sure. Yeah. Because that might create other issues. Yeah,
that's
but go ahead.
Another story.
Yeah.
So
they were excited that you were back.
They were
excited,
ready to go. And the next thing you know, we are just, business is just growing. We're hitting capacity. And then that in itself was very telling. I thought, you know what? The time has come. We need to find an entity, particularly a municipality. That's the goal. And we reached out. Initially, we reached out to the Park District.
In Frankfurt.
In Frankfurt. They have their own challenges for how much we support each other.
Right.
It's not that they were like, hey, no. They're just like, the time is not even close to being right.
Okay.
We have our own things going on. So the next logical one is the village of Frankfurt. And we sat down with the mayor, village administrator, had this meeting. And, it was like, okay, nothing was said after that meeting. We thought, okay, so things are in the works. Things are happening. He's probably going back, talking with the trustees. Hey, this is what's going on with KidsWork. What are we thinking here? Months had passed. We didn't really hear anything. And then finally it just came down to like, we're not interested.
Okay.
You're not interested. And that's thankfully Beth went to you and was like, hey, this is what's going on with KidsWork. And that's where you
and actually you're right, she didn't come to me asking if the village would be involved. She was just explaining what was happening. And of course I said, well, we'll take them.
Yes.
We'll take
thankfully.
them. Yeah. And having worked here for a while, she knew I was serious. And went back, and in pretty short order, we were able to come up with a deal. It didn't work out for Frankfurt, and we were glad that we were able to build you a 12,000 square foot facility, and which had its hiccups, and we'll talk about that too. But to me, it was a no-brainer. I mean, you saw how many countless families come in there and the excitement and the experience that they had, right? And how valuable it was. Talk to me a little bit about what you saw interacting with the families and how valuable it was to the community.
Yeah, everybody loved the museum in Frankfurt. It was a lot of people, like, that was like a staple of the town too, where they had been coming there for years. There was people that they would come in and they were like, oh, my kids are 30 now, and I used to take them in here when, they were younger, and everybody just loved it.
And then now they're bringing in grandkids when they were bringing in their kids.
Oh, yeah, getting the grandparent membership now, yeah.
Yeah, and plus that's a nice little area down there. That downtown Frankfurt's really nice. Like we talked about some of the restaurants and shops. And so
it's gorgeous.
It is a really a nice area, and the museum seemed to be a good fit.
Yeah, and it was good too. They do a lot of events over there too, and that would bring in traction because people were like, oh, cool, now we can, come here with our kids too, take a break from the event. And yeah, it was just a good space for everybody to come in and have fun.
Yeah, so I mean, it seemed to, I can see you needed to grow. You needed more space. There was no more space in that current location. This is one of those things that, as the mayor here in New Lenox, I have worked well with the mayors in the Lincoln Way area, and we really have a good relationship and believe that, yes, we all have our own individual towns, and we want things for our community, but if something's not going to be in New Lenox, I want it to be in Frankfurt or Mokina or Manhattan. I want to keep it close to home. And the mayors have all kind of taken that attitude that this Lincoln Way area is, we all have our little nuances, but we all work well together. And it's nice that you don't have to travel far for that stuff. So when we talked about KidsWork, and you're right, that foresight from the original founders of this, we didn't want to name it the New Lenox Children's Museum.
Right.
We, knowing it's the only children's museum in Will County,
yes,
correct? It's the only children's museum in Will County. We wanted, New Lenox people used to go to Frankfurt. Now we want Frankfurt people to come to New Lenox. And as long as it stays in the area, it's worked out. And I think that's kind of worked out that way, hasn't it?
It really has.
Yeah.
And what I love about this location is we're getting Manhattan, Joliet, because it's so further west.
Right. Maybe Homer, Lockport, because you're a little
we
closer.
Definitely get Homer. Whereas when we were in Frankfurt, we got quite a bit of Tinley Park, Matson, those are further east.
Sure.
So it's nice to get a whole new crop of residents from different communities coming in who didn't, couldn't or wouldn't travel out to Frankfurt.
Right.
Now they're like, oh, New Lenox is closer by. Yeah, I'll try.
Well,
I'll
it's
check
right
it out.
off I-80, which makes it really convenient.
Very
and of
convenient.
course, speaking of community engagement and Beth and everybody, I'm always coming up with. So I said, we have to have something that will attract people. And first I wanted to buy the Gemini Giant that was, when it was for sale at the launching pad. And I thought, it probably belongs out where it was. If we steal that, that's not going to have goodwill.
I would have wanted
Plus,
it
probably would have come crashing through the roof. But I said, let's put Cosmic Clark up on the roof. And it's nice. I just kind of think, when you get off I-80, when you're coming down Nelson, when you're coming down 30, and the kids see the big astronaut on the roof, that's something that they look for. Like I did when I was a kid on the south side, and you'd see the big cigar store Indian over on 63rd Street, that eventually it became like an optometrist office, and the Indian ended up with like an eye chart on his chest. Whatever, they bastardized that, but whatever. But yeah, so we want it to be visually appealing, and really that was important to us, that people from all over could come and experience this. So when you get people coming, I see you all the time over there. You're a hard worker. You really do a great job. You're not only at the front greeting people and all that, but you're walking through the museum.
Yeah.
What are you hearing from people now as they're coming into the museum?
We had a pretty rough start for a little bit there, but things have been really good. We have a lot of people who are constantly coming up and, giving good feedback. So we always like to let them know too, to go ahead, leave a review so we can all see that. But people are liking, I've had people come in recently too, where they were like, I was at this said museum earlier this morning, and then we came and we stopped over here, and man, it is just so much nicer here. Everything's brand new. It's so clean. Like, we like this so much better.
You don't want to dog that other museum?
It's not just one. There's
We're better than all of them?
I think you can take
that's good enough.
a out of the hat.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't matter. Exactly.
Right.
Well, I think part of that is shown with the membership. So you said you were around 600 in Frankfurt. Now that we're here, not even a year yet, your memberships are up to about what?
We're close to over 1,000.
Or so we're over 1,000 now. So that's really good. And in the membership, let's talk about the cost a little bit. So
Sure.
What is the cost for a family membership?
It's $190.
Okay, and what is that? Who does that include?
So that includes the people who live in your household. So 2 people, you know.
2 kids, 4 kids.
Yeah, 4 kids.
Whatever.
Yes.
If you're like my wife's family who had, like 37 kids, they would all be included in that. The Irish Catholics from the 60s and 70s, yeah. But whoever is in the immediate household is part of that plan.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And I've had people ask, we do this podcast so we can get good information out there and not just the crap you see on Facebook. And people saying, this is bullshit that I got to pay $15 to come in when all I'm doing is watching my kids run around. Why are we charging adults when when it's for the kids?
Well, one thing to make clear is, so there's over 350 children's museums in the country. I was just at a conference, and many of them I had met. I'm not saying all 350, but they all charge for the adults.
Sure. So does the movie theater, so does the bowling alley.
Everywhere.
You go to Disneyland, I'm not going on the rides, you're still paying.
Right.
Disney's like, no,
exactly.
you're still paying. Okay,
Right, yeah.
That's just what it is.
Sure. And
so.
plus, we're trying to promote, because some of the exhibits that we put in there are really interactive. It's not just a play place. And we're hoping that parents are interacting with their kids and taking part in those activities. Do you see that happening? Do you see parents making some of those little tunnels with the balls?
It's about 50-50. That's what we want, and I know that's why we charge the adults too, because they're taking part in the experience as well, not just the children. And part of the feedback I've also been getting is, even just on Tuesday, I had a parent come up to me, and they were out of sorts. They were like, I cannot believe that there's all these parents here, and they don't even know where their children are. They're not playing with their kids, and their kids are making a mess. They're destroying everything. I can't believe that this is the example that we're setting for our children. And, that's a big thing for us. And, especially, being at the museum for a while, we have witnessed a lot of parents will bring in laptops. They'll be on the phone doing work calls the whole time. They bring a book in to read, and it's like, that's not what we're here for. We're not like a daycare where you can bring your kids so that you can get your work done and everything. We get it. Everybody works really hard. Everybody has a job. We're not discrediting that at all, but we do want you to interact with your children, to watch them, because we're not liable for that. And we do, take care of all that. We're constantly running to our front door to stop the children from running out. We have kids come up lost all the time, and we will, accompany them and take them to find their parents. But it's a hard thing going on there.
Well, that's an important message. You're right. People are busy, and we understand. That's why they sit in a corner at Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts and go on.
Right.
We understand that, but the idea of the museum, especially since so many of those kids are younger, is to supervise your child.
Right. Oh yeah.
Interact with your child.
Absolutely.
There are some of those exhibits where it's hands-on and you're doing things. Other are imagination. Either way, we really encourage people to interact with their kids in that way. And I think you're right. I think that's really, really important. It isn't a daycare. It isn't a bounce house where you can put your kids in there and let them bounce around. It's a children's museum.
Absolutely. You're learning through play. And for us, our top priority is always the safety. Every time.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where you'll always see either Riley or any other staff members walking around, kind of, obviously tidying things up, the different exhibit areas, but also keeping a watchful eye on some kids who are a little bit rambunctious, and they will say something, as they should.
Right.
They would prefer the parents says something.
Right.
But as Riley had pointed out, they're on their laptop. They're reading a book.
Sure.
So they don't know that, little Johnny is out running around and throwing a football. And I bring this up because that has happened.
Sure.
Older
The hell
kids
are they
come
bringing
in.
a football into the children?
Yeah,
They bring everything
They
in
bring
there.
in. They'll bring a football. Yeah.
All right.
So-
Listen, we know the majority of the parents out there are doing what they're supposed
Yes,
to
they
do.
are.
Oh, yeah.
But
That is so-
unfortunately,
yes.
there's always those few
There is.
that
There is.
are going to, and it makes it difficult. It makes the experience.
But then that's where Riley
less for
gets
others.
that parent coming up saying, hey,
yeah.
what's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are a lot of good parents, that I watch them. They're very good with their children, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, I've been there with the grandkids and experienced it. And first of all, the entire staff does an amazing job there. Yeah. And it is exhausting. It's 12,000 square feet. Now we've got the outdoor 4,500 square feet, and our grandkids are old enough where they are literally running around all over the place. And it gets exhausting watching them, but that's the whole point.
That's the whole point.
That's the whole point. If you don't want to do that, you can take them to a park.
Yes.
And they can play on the swings while you sit at the bench. But yeah, no, absolutely. We want the kids to not only have fun, but like you said, learning through fun.
Yes.
And that's really, really important. So we talked a little bit about the rough start, and as the mayor, that was tough for me. We built this beautiful building. We had been gone over plans for the exhibits that we were going to get. We were really, in some respects, we were happy with how it looked, but not all of the exhibits were functional for a children's museum.
Absolutely.
And then not everything came in the way it was. So it was pretty rough there for the first couple of months.
Yes, it was. Did not get much sleep. Myself, the staff, Beth, you, so many of us did not get a lot of sleep because our expectations were so high. We wanted this the best of the very best for our members, guests, New Lenox, Frankfort, all the communities. We, of course, talked about this a lot. We kept people informed. As the building was going up, we had video out there. People were like, this is going to be awesome. And then sure enough, as you just mentioned, the quality wasn't there.
And some of those exhibits, it was not what we were expecting. Yeah, we have to own that. I mean, even though we didn't build it and we were told one thing and we got something else, ultimately it's my responsibility as the mayor. It's our responsibility as a village. And we were all, yourself included, I know, disappointed that we were not able to start the way we wanted to, but I think we've come a long way.
We've got this
amazing new water table in there. We're getting a new car that's coming. The outdoor play area is great. I really think there's been a huge turnaround. And it's taken a lot of hard work from you and your staff and the village committing to this experience. Instead of just saying, we could have just said, well, it's still here and whatever. You'll still get people to come. We don't want that. We want quality for not only our residents, but all the people that come.
And it's telling, too, because, we opened October 8th, and then I looked at the numbers yesterday. We've had over 56,000 people.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's amazing. And now remember, look at Frankfurt. We had about 40 for a full year.
Right.
So we're not even in a full year yet.
No.
So it's very telling. People still are coming.
Oh, they are. And you're getting a repeat, and the people are signing up again. I'm over there all the time, as you know, coming through. I see the camps that are there with the kids.
That's
fun.
You got to meet them.
I did. They came over.
I know. I heard you got challenged. Somebody wants your job.
Oh, they can have it.
Yeah.
They don't know how glamorous it is, Yeah, no, that was real. That was really, really cute.
They thought you were Abraham Lincoln. Your picture.
Yeah, I did get that too. I wasn't completely flattered by that because they weren't talking about his great ability. They were talking about his homely looks. But whatever, I guess beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Sure.
But. Are you complaining back there? No? Okay, all right, then I guess I'm doing okay. So it has made this nice turnaround. You got all these great camps. You've got field trips coming through. Their memberships are up. We're going to put another new exhibit in. So things are really looking great for the museum right now.
Absolutely. And then we just got stuff in the pipeline for programs, events. We're going to bring back Musical Mondays, Wild Wednesdays. I'm looking at bringing at a robotics.
Tequila Tuesday?
We can do that too. After hours.
Now, Riley.
After hours.
Absolutely.
We can do that too.
Did you have tequila on your 21st?
No, I did not.
No. You missed out.
I know. It was a Monday.
Well, we can help you out with that.
You know what? You're not supposed to be responsible at 21, but good for you. I'm glad that you are, especially since you're working with kids. We appreciate that you didn't come in hungover the next day.
Always.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, so real quickly too, talk about tickets and how people get them, because even though we're at 12,000 square feet, there's still capacity. So how does that work? How are people getting their tickets?
Especially in the beginning and even now, so we encourage people to go online, buy your ticket, because that secures your spot. It is a reservation. However, you can just walk in.
Yep.
Most of the time, we can accommodate that. If we cannot, we'll ask you to, either wait outside. We take your name and number, and then, we'll call you and say, hey, you know what? We have room. Please come on in. And we've had to do that a few times, and people are responsive. They're very accepting of that. They get it. But those ones who buy online, they're in.
They're in.
They're in.
And we should really encourage it now because, of course, as a community, we're always cross-promoting. We just built the Crossroads, the Wintrust Crossroads Sports Complex. And as you know, we are promoting that to the tournament teams that are coming in. There are times where there's going to be a few thousand people at the tournament, and we're going to encourage them, hey, come to the KidsWork Children's Museum, see what there's to offer. Then, of course, there's all the restaurants around and shopping. So really, more than ever for our local people, we want to encourage you, buy those tickets online. You can always take a chance, but buy those tickets online.
Yes, please buy those tickets. And if for some situation where you just couldn't make it, you bought the ticket and something happened or whatever it may be, we can move that date for you.
Okay.
You're not going to lose the ticket.
Okay.
We're not going to do that.
You sure?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're
Riley, is that right?
Okay.
Yes, that is right.
Okay.
I can attest to that.
You can attest to that? That's how it works?
Yes.
All right. Anything else that you'd like to add?
I think I just want to add that for people to, look at our Facebook page, go to our website, because we're going to have a lot of good things coming up here in the fall. A lot of programs, events, some of the things they'll be familiar with that we did in Frankfurt. We're going to bring a lot of that stuff back, and we already kind of have. And then also that people can reach out to me. I'm a talker. Is
that right, Riley?
Yeah. I do like to talk. I do like to talk. I like to talk on the phone. So over email, I'm not really that great with email. So I love when people call me, the front desk, they always have my cards,
Right.
and they start passing them out. Talk with our executive director. You have a great idea. I'm not saying that it's going to be a sure thing that we're going to do it.
Sure.
But hey, let's have the discussion.
Absolutely.
We can't think of everything. I have some people who say, hey, I was at this museum out in Boston. They're doing X, Y, Z. Oh, awesome. Great. Maybe we can do that here.
Sure. No, absolutely. Plus, Plus, if someone is having a less than great experience, you want to know about it too, because we want to
every time.
Yeah, that's when I give them Nicole's business card.
Oh, you don't deal with it?
I do sometimes, but normally it's out of my pay grade. So I'm like, here, you can call Nicole. Yeah.
We'll have to talk about your pay grade then, because I think you do a wonderful job over there. Both of you, really, the entire staff, everyone that works over there is so friendly and so helpful. They're really, really good people. That's who you want around kids and families. And although it is an educational experience, it's fun. And you've got to have the right staff for that, because if the atmosphere isn't set, if you're walking around with resting bitch face, and you're, it's kind of rough. So no, but our crew has got great smiles on and very, very friendly.
And I think there was the bright spot during that kind of tough beginning. That was always the bright spot. People were like, your staff are amazing.
You're 100% right. Yeah, well, the only thing I didn't like is when someone complained, you said, well, the mayor did, you pinned it on me.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a load of crap, but whatever. We'll get through that. But anyway, I do. And the last thing I want to say, we have tried, I know you worked with the community for our friends with special abilities, varying abilities, to try and make it accessible for everybody there. And I know you continue to do that. And that's really, really important for us. We want kids of all those ages there, 0 to 10, and of varying abilities to be able to come and have something or multiple things them for there to do. And that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So
that was a top priority.
Yeah,
remember,
it is,
in the beginning of the discussions with the building of the museum, all of us were adamant that this museum is going to be different in that, in Frankfurt, we were 2 stories. We were not. It was tough.
Yes.
It was tough. So that was number one, I think, priority.
It was.
Making accessible to all.
And we never rest on our laurels. I think we've done a lot of good things, but I know we continue to work with our friends from Advocates for Acceptance and other groups to try, they are amazing people, to try and make it as accessible for everybody as possible.
And we do have a sensory hour
Yes, we
Yes.
do have a
Yeah,
sensory art.
That's
yes.
great too,
Bring
and all
some
that's
light
on
to
the
that.
website.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, take advantage of that. That's
Yes,
that's
you
really
should.
great. That's great. Well, I want to thank both of you for being here today, and of course,
Thank you for
thank
having
you
us.
on behalf of the board and myself and the entire village. Really the entire area for what you do, because we have just a wonderful children's museum that's going to continue to grow, and it takes a lot of hard work and effort from the staff up and down the line. So please pass that along to everybody. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I want to thank all of you for whether you're listening on one of our multiple podcast platforms or whether you're watching right here on YouTube. Thank you for watching this edition of Too Honest for Social Media.